The room was already tense before Jackie even walked out, but no one could have predicted the storm she was about to unleash. It wasn't just a passing remark or a vague hint, dropped in front of a live audience and with cameras rolling. As the words left her mouth, the crowd's collective gasp seemed to pull the air out of the room. There had been whispers for weeks, murmurs about late-night meetings and sudden disappearances. But nothing concrete until now. Jackie's voice didn't shake, and her expression didn't flinch. She looked at Evelyn, then at Chantel, making sure everyone saw exactly who she was talking about, and then it landed the claim that both women were expecting. And not just from anyone, but from the same man whose name had been circling in the shadows of every conversation. The shock was instant. Evelyn's eyes widened, but she didn't look away. Chantal froze for a moment, her lips parting as if to speak, but no sound came out. Phones went up instantly, flashes firing as the audience scrambled to capture the chaos. Fans online would later say they could feel the heat radiating off the stage through their screens. Emotions ran high, and the family was left divided in a way that felt almost impossible to repair. This wasn't just drama, it was the kind of revelation that could burn every bridge in sight. Jackie stood in the middle of the stage like she owned it, her heels clicking against the wooden floor with every deliberate step as the audience held its breath. There was no hesitation in her eyes, no trace of doubt in her tone. She had come to say something that would change the entire dynamic between the women seated only a few feet away from her. Evelyn sat with her arms tightly crossed, her jaw clenched as though she was bracing for impact. Chantal, on the other hand, looked uncharacteristically still. Her gaze fixed on the floor like she already knew what was coming, since everyone's been whispering behind each other's backs. Why not just lay it out here in front of everyone? Jackie's words cut through the murmur of the crowd. It's a kind of sentence that immediately makes people lean forward in their seats. The room shifted, the quiet replaced with low murmurs as people turned to see how the two women would respond. And then Jackie let it out. She didn't dance around the truth, didn't soften the blow. She said it outright that both Evelyn and Chantal were expecting, and that it was from the same man. The ripple through the crowd was immediate. Some gasped loud enough to be heard over the microphones, while others whispered to the person next to them with wide-eyed disbelief. The tension was almost tangible, thick enough to make even the crew behind the cameras glance at each other. Nervously, Evelyn's lips curled into the faintest smirk. But it wasn't amusement. It was the kind of expression that hides both rage and calculation. Chantal finally looked up, her eyes meeting Evelyn's for a split second before she shook her head slowly, almost as if she were trying to deny the moment itself. "You're lying," Chantal said under her breath, though the microphones picked it up. Her voice was steady, but her hands told a different story. They fidgeted in her lap, twisting the rings on her fingers like she was desperate to release the energy building inside her. Evelyn didn't answer right away, choosing instead to lean back in her chair and let the tension work in her favor. It was a power move, silence as a weapon. Then Evelyn finally spoke. "I don't know what game you think you're playing, Jackie, but you really should be careful about throwing out accusations without proof." Her voice had an edge to it, sharp enough to make the audience murmur again. But Jackie didn't waver. She stepped closer to the women, pointing a finger between them. "You two don't need me to have proof. Know the truth yourselves." The man's name wasn't said, not yet, but everyone in that room knew who she was talking about. He'd been spotted with Evelyn at a charity gala last month, and with Chantal leaving a late-night dinner 2 weeks before. Fans online had already begun connecting dots weeks ago, pulling together screenshots of matching locations, cryptic captions, and half-hidden hand gestures in photos. What no one had expected was for those theories to be confirmed or at least thrown into the public arena in such an explosive way. Chantal's cheeks flushed a deep shade of red, though whether it was embarrassment or fury was impossible to tell. "This is disgusting," she said, finally turning to Evelyn. "If you have something to say it to me, not through her." The directness caught some off guard. Evelyn met her gaze with a calm that felt almost rehearsed. You really want me to say it here? Fine. I'm not denying we were involved. But don't act like you didn't know about it from the start. The gasp from the audience was deafening. Even Jackie raised an eyebrow, clearly satisfied that her spark had started a fire neither woman could easily put out. Chantal's mouth fell open for a moment before she snapped it shut, her eyes darting toward the side of the stage as though searching for an escape route. Jackie, feeding on the chaos, added, "And you both really think he's going to stick around for either of you once this goes public?" It was a taunt, a challenge, and it landed exactly where she wanted it to. The energy on stage shifted from awkward tension to something volatile. Evelyn adjusted her dress, sat forward, and locked her eyes on Chantal. "You're not going to make me feel guilty for something you've been doing yourself," Evelyn said, her voice low but firm. "You think you have some moral high ground because you stayed quiet? No, this is about control, and you hate that you don't have it." Shot back without missing a beat. Control. You think sleeping with someone who is with me is control? No, that's desperation. You couldn't stand that I had something you wanted, so you took it like you always do. The exchange was raw, every word charged with years of underlying tension. People in the audience shifted in their seats, some leaning forward to catch every word, others covering their mouths in shock. Even the crew couldn't hide their reactions. One camera operator shook his head slightly, another biting back a grin like they knew this footage would go viral in seconds. Meanwhile, the man in question was nowhere to be seen, but his absence was almost as loud as the words being thrown on stage. The idea that he could be watching from somewhere off camera only made the atmosphere more electric. Jackie, still standing between them, seemed to enjoy the chaos far more than anyone else. "You know what's really funny?" she said, her tone dripping with mock sweetness. "You both think this is about him, but really it's about who's going to come out looking better when this airs." Chantal scoffed, rolling her eyes, while Evelyn let out a small laugh that sounded anything but amused. "Trust me," Evelyn said, leaning back again, "I don't need to play games to come out on top." Chantal's voice rose a little, the frustration beginning to crack through her calm exterior. "Keep telling yourself that, because when the truth comes out about what you've been hiding, you're going to wish you'd kept quiet." The crowd reacted again, the wave of noise bouncing off the walls. Evelyn's smirk returned, but her eyes narrowed, a sign that the jab had landed. Jackie, realizing she'd already thrown enough gasoline on the fire, stepped back slightly, letting the two women face each other fully. The cameras zoomed in, capturing the moment in tight frames that would be replayed countless times online. What had started as Jackie's calculated reveal had turned into a full-blown showdown, one that wasn't just about a shared relationship, was about pride, image, and the power to control the narrative before the other person did. And as the seconds ticked by, it was clear that neither woman had any intention of backing down. The silence that followed Chantal's last words wasn't peaceful, it was the heavy, loaded kind that made the room feel smaller, almost suffocating. You could see the way Evelyn's fingers tapped lightly against her knee, each click of her nails like a countdown to something no one was ready for. Chantal kept her eyes locked on her, refusing to blink, as if any sign of hesitation would be taken as weakness. Jackie, hovering at the edge of their tense stare-off, tilted her head like she was listening for the moment the room might actually explode. Then Evelyn leaned forward, her voice low but sharp enough to slice through the air. "You keep talking about the truth like you own it, Chantal, but you've been telling half-stories since the day this started. Should we talk about those late nights you spent in his car? Or maybe how you were still texting him after you knew about me?" She wasn't yelling, she didn't need to. Her tone carried the weight of someone who knew exactly where to strike. Chantal's jaw tightened, but she didn't look away. "Don't pretend you were blindsided. You knew he and I weren't finished. You knew what you were walking into, and you didn't care. That says more about you than it does about me." Her voice was steady, but her breathing betrayed her short, clipped inhales like she was forcing herself to keep control from the audience. A few gasps broke the tension, followed by scattered whispers. Phones were held higher now, every person desperate to catch every second of this unraveling. One woman, in the front row, shook her head slowly, mouthing something that looked a lot like "This is wild" to the person next to her. Jackie, sensing she could push the moment even further, stepped back into the center. "What's really interesting," she said, "is that neither of you seem all that surprised. Hurt? Sure. Angry? Obviously. But surprised? Not one bit." She let the words hang there, letting the implications settle. Evelyn shot her a quick glance, the kind that said, "Stay out of it." But Jackie wasn't one to be silenced when she had an audience. "So maybe the real story isn't who he's with? Now, Lutz, how long this has been going on behind closed doors?" Chantal's shoulders tensed. "You're making it sound like some long, messy conspiracy when the reality is much simpler. He lied to both of us. He made promises he couldn't keep and thought he could keep us both happy without us finding out. That's it." But Evelyn wasn't letting her have the last word. "No, Chantal. The reality is, you stayed in it because you liked the competition. Don't act like you're the victim in all this when you were playing just as dirty." That lit the match. Chantal sat up straighter, her voice climbing in volume. "Competition. I was in love with him. I thought we had something real. And you," she pointed at Evelyn, "you were the one circling around like a vulture the moment we hit a rough patch. You weren't trying to be with him, you were trying to take him from me." Evelyn let out a short, humorless laugh. "If he could be taken, he was never really yours." The audience erupted again, a mixture of shocked laughter, gasps, and low whistles. One man in the back muttered loud enough for the microphones to pick up. "Damn, she went there," prompting another round of murmurs. Jackie folded her arms, eyes darting between them like she was keeping score. "So, if he was never really hers, Evelyn, what makes you think he's going to stay with you? Especially now?" That question hung in the air, heavier than any accusation before it. Evelyn's smirk faltered for the first time, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty she quickly tried to hide. "He's with me because he wants to be," she said finally. Her tone still steady, but missing its earlier bite. Chantal leaned in. Slightly, her voice soft but dangerous. "That's what he told me too." A fresh wave of gasps filled the room, followed by the frantic clicking of cameras. It was a quiet line, but it hit like a punch. Evelyn blinked, then shook her head, slowly, almost laughing. "You really think you can rattle me with recycled lines? Please, you're just proving my point." But her eyes betrayed her there was a flicker of something. It's a kind of doubt that creeps in when you realize you don't know the whole story after all. And Jackie caught it instantly. She said softly, dragging out the word, "So, maybe you're not as confident as you want everyone to believe." Evelyn straightened her posture, clearly unwilling to give Jackie the satisfaction of seeing her shaken. "Believe what you want. I'm not here to convince you, Jackie, or you. Chantal, I know where I stand." Chantal crossed her arms, mirroring Evelyn's stance almost perfectly. "And I know where I stand too, and it's not behind you." Tension thickened again, the kind that made every small sound footsteps backstage. A cough from the crowd deco louder than it should. Jackie's lips curled into a slow smile, like she'd just won a game neither woman realized they were playing. The cameras zoomed in tighter, catching the smallest twitch of a jaw muscle, the slight shake of a hand, the flicker of an eye toward the exit. Whatever was going to happen next, everyone knew it wasn't over, not by a long shot. The silence after Jackie's last words felt like it stretched forever. The crowd was holding its breath, waiting for someone to break the tension. The only sound was the faint hum of the stage lights overhead. And somewhere in the back, the faint click of a phone camera snapping photos. Evelyn sat frozen, her fingers gripping the edge of her chair so tightly her knuckles were white. Chantal, on the other hand, shifted slightly. Leaning back as if she was bracing herself for impact, Jackie took her time, letting the anticipation. "Swell? See?" she said finally. "You both keep thinking this is just about you two. But he's been dividing his time, and he's been sloppy, careless, and now his little secret is out here for everyone to pick apart." A woman in the second row whispered. "She's bluffing," but her voice wavered, betraying the fact that she wasn't sure. The audience was split. Some looked at Jackie like she was stirring the pot for attention, while others leaned in, desperate to hear more. Chantal's eyes narrowed. "You're talking in circles. Who is she? Jackie? Who's the someone else you're hinting at?" Jackie's lips curved into a smile that was just shy of smug. "Oh, you'll know soon enough. But let's just say she's not a stranger to either of you." Evelyn's breath caught. "What are you implying?" "I'm not implying," Jackie said, her voice sharp now. "I'm telling you he's been with a woman you both know. Someone you've laughed with, cried with, maybe even trusted." The room erupted into whispers. People exchanged glances, some already scrolling through their phones as if they could figure it out before Jackie said the name. Chantal tilted her head, her voice icy. "If you're talking about who I think you're talking about, Jackie, you'd better be ready for what comes next." Jackie didn't flinch. "Oh, I'm ready. But are you?" The cameras zoomed in, catching every twitch of Evelyn's face. As she tried to piece it together, her mind was racing, scanning through every possible name, every shared friend, every castmate who might fit the bill. Then, like a flash, realization seemed to hit her. Her eyes widened, and she turned sharply. "To Chantal? No way." Chantal looked confused. What is it?" Evelyn shook her head, almost laughing, but there was no humor in it. "You don't get it, do you? She's talking about..." Jackie's smile widened. "Bingo." Collective gasp from the audience was almost deafening. Someone in the back actually shouted, "Shut up!" while others covered their mouths in shock. The name hadn't even been said yet, but the reaction made it clear it was someone who mattered. Someone close enough to make this revelation feel like a betrayal on multiple levels. Chantel turned to Jackie, her voice low and trembling. "You're lying. There's no way." Jackie shrugged. "Believe what you want, but I've seen the messages. I've seen the late-night calls. I've even seen the photos. And believe me, those aren't the kind of photos you send to just a friend." Evelyn stood up then, the scrape of her chair against the floor loud enough to make everyone flinch. "If you're going to say it, Jackie, say it. Stop hiding behind your little teases." Jackie took a deep breath, as if she was about to deliver a monologue she'd been rehearsing for weeks. "Fine, it's Ashley." The crowd exploded shouts, curses, disbelieving laughter. Ashley's name seemed to hang in the air like smoke, heavy and impossible to ignore. Chantal's face went pale, her hands tightening into fists at her sides. Evelyn's expression was unreadable, a mixture of rage and something else, maybe hurt, maybe disbelief. "Ashley?" Chantal repeated, her voice cracking. "You're telling me he's been with Ashley?" Jackie nodded slowly. "And not just been with. He's been with her while being with both of you. And now Ashley's expecting too." The noise in the room reached a fever pitch. Fans were shouting over one another, some calling Jackie a liar, others demanding proof. Phones were out everywhere, recording, streaming, already uploading clips online. Chantel. Single quotes S voice shook with anger. "You're making this up to get attention. Jackie, I don't believe you." Jackie leaned forward, her eyes locking on Chantal. "You don't have to believe me, but deep down, you know he's capable of it. You've seen the signs, the late replies, the sudden disappearances, the excuses that never quite made sense." Evelyn crossed her arms, her voice colder than ice. And what, you just conveniently have all this information and decide to drop it now? Why, Jackie? Why here? Jackie's gaze swept over the audience, then back to them. "'Cause I'm tired of watching you two tear each other apart over a man who doesn't deserve either of you. And because maybe, just maybe, you both need to know the truth before you destroy yourselves completely." There was a beat of silence broken only by the sound of someone in the back saying, "This is insane." Chantal shook her head slowly, her eyes glistening. "If this is true, if he's been with Ashley this whole time, then I'm done. I'm done with him. With all of this." Evelyn's lips pressed into a thin line. "Don't act like you're the only one hurt here. He's been lying to me too." Jackie raised her brows. "Then maybe, for once, you two should be on the same side." That suggestion seemed to hang between them, heavy and awkward. Neither woman spoke, but the tension in the air shifted slightly from pure hostility to something else, something more complicated. And just when it seemed like the conversation might take a different turn, a voice from the audience called out, "Jackie, show the proof." Jackie's eyes glittered. "Oh, I will." But not all at once. Jackie's gaze swept slowly over the stage, her eyes catching every twitch, every flicker of emotion on Evelyn and Chantel's faces. She didn't speak right away. She let the noise of the crowd fill the silence, their overlapping whispers sounding like a storm threatening to break. The tension had grown so thick that even the crew at the sides of the stage had stopped moving, their headsets forgotten, eyes fixed on the scene unfolding. Finally, Jackie reached into her bag, the soft scrape of leather loud in the quiet, and pulled out a thin black folder. There was nothing flashy about it, nothing dramatic in its design. But the way she handled it, like it was both delicate and dangerous made. "Everyone, lean in, lean in." Evelyn crossed her arms. "So you've been carrying that around just waiting for this moment?" Jackie didn't blink. Some truths can't be rushed. They have to land when they'll do the most damage. She set the folder on the table in front of her and tapped it once, a small, controlled movement that somehow made it feel heavier. This is the kind of proof you can't spin away. Not on social media, not in interviews, not anywhere. The audience gasped in waves, a ripple of anticipation moving through the room. Chantal's eyes darted to the folder, then back to Jackie, suspicion tightening her mouth. "Open it," Chantal said, her voice low but cutting. Jackie flipped the cover back slowly, revealing neatly stacked papers. She pulled out the top sheet and slid it forward. It was a grainy but unmistakable screenshot from a video called The Man in Question, fur-chested, smiling with Ashley sitting in the background wearing one of his hoodies. The timestamp was recent. CHANTEL, single quotes, lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. Evelyn leaned back in her chair, her expression hardening into something unreadable. "This is just the beginning," Jackie murmured almost to herself. She picked up the second page's string of text messages full of pet names, inside jokes, and plans that lined up dangerously close to both women's timelines. Someone in the second row muttered under their breath, "This is too much." Another, louder, said, "He's finished." Phones lifted into the air to capture the evidence, flashes going off like paparazzi. "You've been sitting on this?" Evelyn finally said, her tone caught between anger and disbelief. "Long enough to know when to drop it." Jackie replied, her voice even, "If I told you months ago, you'd have fought me instead of seeing the truth." The air between them vibrated with unspoken accusations. Chantel's fingers drummed against the tabletop, a nervous, restless beat. Evelyn's eyes flicked briefly to her, as if gauging whether they were on the same side or not. And then, from backstage, came a voice sharp enough to slice through the noise. "She's not telling the whole story." Heads turned in unison toward the curtain. Ashley emerged, her posture straight, chin lifted. She wasn't hurried or hesitant. She walked like she had been waiting for this cue all along. You want to talk about receipts? Ashley said, stepping onto the stage. Maybe let me give you the full picture. Evelyn stood halfway, pointing a finger toward her. You think you have the right to insert yourself here? Ashley smirked. Insert myself. Sweetheart, I am the story you're trying to tell. Chantel's eyes narrowed. You're pregnant with his baby and you're acting like you won some prize. I'm not acting, Ashley shot back. And I'm not the only one. Maybe you should tell them Chantal or you, Evelyn. She shifted her gaze between them, letting the implications sink in. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like we're all in the same situation. The audience erupted. Shouts, gasps, hands over mouths. Someone yelled, "No way," while another shouted, "They're all pregnant." Evelyn's hands curled into fists. You think this is cute? You think standing here trying to drag us down with you makes you look strong? Ashley tilted her head, her smile small but sharp. No, it makes me honest, which is more than I can say for him or either of you. Security shifted closer, ready for anything. Jackie didn't move, just watched, her expression unreadable, as though she had seen this exact moment playing out in her mind. You know what's pathetic? Ashley continued, her voice carrying over the noise. Fighting over someone who is never going to stay. He'll leave all of us, and we'll be here, tearing each other apart while he finds his next distraction. Those words seemed to land, harder than any accusation. Evelyn's face faltered, her glare wavering. Chantal exhaled slowly, her shoulders dropping a fraction. Dachi leaned forward slightly. And maybe that's exactly what needed to be said. Maybe now you stop letting him pull the strings. There was no resolution, no apology. Just three women standing in a triangle of tension, each calculating her next move as the audience devoured every second. Phones buzzed in laps and hands, news already racing beyond the walls of the venue, carrying the scandal into thousands of conversations before the confrontation had even ended. The stage lights seemed harsher now. Every detail exposed the clenched jaws, the trembling fingers, the eyes that wouldn't quite meet. Somewhere in the crowd, someone started chanting. It's a mix of names and accusations, and soon the whole room was alive with noise again. Ashley stepped back, her piece said, leaving the others to decide whether to turn on each other or walk away. Evelyn and Chantal didn't move, as if rooted to the spot by the sheer weight of what had just happened. Jackie closed the folder, tucking it back into her bag with the same deliberate care she had shown taking it out. I think that's enough truth for one night, she said quietly. But loud enough to be heard, so that's where things stand for now. We've got whispers turning into headlines, backstage clips becoming timelines, and a stage moment that set the whole internet on fire. Remember, we're giving commentary on what's being talked about, not confirming anything. The talk online says both names are tied to the same man, and Ashley walking out only poured more fuel on it. Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and the family was left divided. At least that's what the chatter suggests. These claims are true. The fallout could reshape friendships, deals, and every on-camera reunion that comes next. If they're not, someone's running a ruthless play for attention. Either way, the stakes feel very real. Now it's your turn. Whose side are you on after tonight's shocker? Should there be a joint statement? Or is it time for a clean break and quiet co-parenting conversations? Do you think DNA tests, public apologies, or full receipts would settle the sore? Would that just make it worse? If you were in their shoes, what would you do first? Call a lawyer, call a doctor, or call out the lies? Drop your take below and don't hold back your comments. Drive what we cover next. Hit like if you want deeper breakdowns of the alleged timelines. Subscribe if you want us to keep tracking every angle as more details surface, and tap the bell so you're first when the next twist hits. Share this video with that one friend who always spots clues no one else sees, and tag us with your theories we'll feature, the sharpest ones in our follow-up. If you've caught inconsistencies, screen record them and send them in. We're watching the rumors, reading your receipts, and we'll be back the moment new claims drop. Stay locked in, keep it respectful in the comments, and tell us exactly how you think this story should end.